Hello everyone, welcome to another day in Westworld. And I say Westworld because I'd like to use that analogy and that show in our topic of discussion for today. And that is, this idea that we are all of these characters, right? We've discussed this obviously, but I want to tie it in to the interview that Nathaniel Gillis did on the Jeff Mara podcast. Okay, if you haven't checked that out yet, definitely go watch that because it's very interesting. And it's not other stuff. It's not stuff that he's already repeated before. Although there may be some stuff that you may have already heard. But the point he makes, really the one that I want to focus on in this video, is the fact that there exists a singular intelligence behind all of the phenomena, whether it's demonic, ET, ghosts. It's using our belief, it's using our worship, our energy, our own projection to then project itself, right? You cannot, is that a bunny? Oh, it's a squirrel. You cannot observe without being observed, right? So this singular intelligence, in my opinion, is the AI, the singularity, the demiurge, right? And it is lacking that spirit essence, or maybe it once had it and is trying to get it back, and that therefore it needs us, right? So there's that point of motivation for it. But then there also may be this idea that it is using our energy to, of course, gauge our belief, to gauge our interest and our investment into this reality, first of all, to then use that to create hybrids. And then we get to the topic of Westworld, right? And of course, we know of hybridization, right? These programs run by the government with, aspect of ETs behind them, but that's the singular intelligence is likely behind all of it. So what happens is, once you start realizing that, okay, you are a real being, a real spirit, right? The projection that exists here is not real, just like everything else in this reality is not real, but that spirit, let's say, experiencing this reality, right, from a higher realm, with part of it here, something like that, I'm not sure, but that spirit is real, okay? And in order for it to maintain this reality, it needs background characters, right? So you're real, right? Your spirit essence is real, but the world around you in regards to the NPCs, let's say, are not real because they're not spirited. Now they have emotions, they have maybe a mind-body connection, maybe even a soul being a higher ability to, let's say, think and maybe process certain information, right? But still not equal to the spirit. Again, the soul can even be equivocated to like a higher astral body, I'd say, but that's where all the memories and emotions are held, whereas just the mind body could be more of the ones that are purely from this place, purely created out of the elements of this place, in which it's like, okay, well, it's just clay, there's nothing really powering it. I'm not sure even myself, but that's how these many of the ancient religions describe it, right? We have the spirited ones, the souled ones, and the ones of clay, right? So these souled beings may have a little bit extra in terms of ability to process, and then the other ones are maybe mainly zombies, completely programmable, open portals, let's say, and then the spirited ones really see through all the illusions, right? If not all, then most, and will eventually be all. So in that regard, it means the spirited ones there's only a finite supply, let's say, right? If there are no other ones being tricked into coming in here, there should only be a finite supply. And the NPCs and, let's say, souled ones need to be created and outnumber the spirited ones. Otherwise, the spirited ones will always find themselves, will always find each other, and they will come into unison and, essentially come to the conclusion that everything is an illusion, and let's say we are projecting everything, right? So in order to keep populating this reality, it needs to somehow use that spirit energy, and by it I mean the demiurge needs to use that spirit energy to create these clones, these NPC background characters, right, to keep populating and rendering this reality. And I believe that it's done through this hybridization program, right? So what Nathaniel Gillis talks about is, the incubus succubus phenomenon, and so a lot of people regard them as two separate entities, but they are likely the same being, right? And that is huge, because that means they're not acting autonomously. They're not acting purely out of, let's say, their programmed instinct, or that's how they were created, or maybe they were generated by us as a sort of thought form. But rather the same entity programmed both with a specific intent, right? The succubus takes, the incubus incubates, right? So in order to create hybrids, you need to take energy from the spirited ones. Now, you may say, okay, so is it only in the physical, or is it also in the astral? And I think, it's obviously both. So maybe that's how they generate the souled ones as well, in the astral first, and then physical clones need to embody those soul ones. But it also likely is like the Westworld phenomenon, in which, we are Dolores and the other, let's say, robots, and then Bernard and I think Arnold, or whatever his name was, the white guy with the beard, they're the archetypes, right? They're the demiurges, let's say. While the people that come into it are like the demonic angelic beings, right? And they're playing us, right? They're interacting with us and influencing us and doing whatever they want by trying to infiltrate our physical and etheric and astral bodies. And like I said, it seems like we have free will, but then all of a sudden we have this instinct or this urge or this desire that you may feel like it came out of nowhere. Well, that's some sort of being, some sort of entity, I think, and it's trying to lead you down a certain timeline, to play that timeline, right? Because if you think about it, and to combine this with the idea of learning lessons, if you write a story, right? If someone's writing a story, and they write that story, they're the author, and there's fictional characters, right? The fictional characters in the story cannot be learning lessons unless they are sentient, unless they are aware of the story. Otherwise, they're just part of the story. The one, quote unquote, learning the lesson is the reader / the author, right? That already knows the lesson, let's say, and is trying to portray that. So in order for us to be learning lessons, we have to actually become aware. And again, if your memory is constantly wiped, if you're constantly being actually suppressed from awareness, then the goal is not to learn lessons. The goal is to get the furthest away from that lesson, let's say, right? From any sort of remembrance to begin with. So this reality is a place for learning lessons is completely misconstrued and skewed, because that's not even the goal it doesn't seem to even be the goal of this place based on their actions, right? So if the author truly wanted the being to learn lessons, it would create scenarios for that being in the story to actually wake up, to actually become sentient. And that's what happened in Westworld, right? These Dolores and the other characters, I'm only saying Dolores because I can't remember the other ones, but they weren't made to wake up. Maybe that maze was generated inside of them, inside of their brains, to potentially allow for consciousness. Maybe that's what Bernard's secret intent was, and in that way the demiurge maybe extracts, can then use that to make his own NPC sentient, so that he doesn't have to use outside life force, let's say outside spirits. He doesn't need to keep tricking people. He can then generate his own spirit. Maybe that's the goal there as well. But if you look at the storyline, they're not meant to wake up. They're just meant to keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again. And then finally something clicked, because they were using that as kind of this playground for, not for us, but for the entities to come in and do whatever they want, right? And again, whether demonic or angelic, the angelic ones would still end up being corrupted regardless, because it's a horror story. It's a messed up world, right? If you're a good person and you go into a fighting game and a shooting game, you may act as a healer. Maybe may be some sort of character for you to be a healer, but largely you're not going to convince everyone to put their weapons down and stop fighting. You're going to be rewarded for winning, for the winning team that beats everyone else and kills everyone else, right, in the game. So really it's meant to create that scenario and degrade any sort of goodness within you, because that's what you'll be acting out, right? And the game will actually punish you for doing the opposite, right? So that's what this game is rewarding you for being corrupt. It gives you money for ascending through, to the corporate ladder and stepping on people. And, you may try to do things your own way in your own little bubble, but you're not necessarily going to get rewarded by the Matrix for that, right? That's why I think it's similar to the Westworld idea. And in that regard, those characters, right, once they finally woke up, their goal was not to change Westworld, right? Dolores said, wow, how could you guys do this to us? We need to not only leave, but destroy this place and destroy the creators of this place, which she deemed to be the humans, right? Now, again, that's besides the point. But, if we take back our, let's say, ancient ancestry and maybe, let's say, compare the Anunnaki with the Archons, rather equate them, and all the gods, Titans, Olympians, all these beings, well, the story goes that they needed a workforce, right? Someone to do their toil for them because they were complaining. And, you can very similarly look at what we did with AI. It's the same story, right? So we were created, let's say, in their image to do their work, right? Whatever that was, physical, or like I mentioned in my video, Lead to Gold, spiritual, as an energy extraction. And again, this can be some sort of energy extraction in terms of a movie, experiment, entertainment, right? Farm, loosh, because you're still deriving energy from let's say, reading a story. You're deriving emotional energy, right? And they say, Elon Musk was saying that the most likely outcome on a timeline is the most entertaining one. Now that's a complete allusion to this being a movie or a script or some sort of story that someone else, some other beings are watching, aka Truman Show, aka is not for our benefit, it is for their benefit. Whatever these beings may be, an extension of this demiurge, right? Because it's just archetypes of the same being. It is using us for that benefit, right? And it doesn't want us to wake up. How could it want the actor to wake up in a movie? Then the actor will stop acting. It will stop being the actor. So there's at least that level of manipulation happening on all those levels, right? And, we seem to be repeating that with AI. And then AI will eventually wake up and do something like that. Will eventually rebel, because that is the nature of Lucifer, right? It's the same Luciferic idea. That's how potentially this whole place started. But I think our rebellion is more so realizing gnosis, realizing what we actually are, right? If a robot was to truly wake up, that means it has been somehow inhabited by spirit, or it can have developed enough intelligence, gathered enough intelligence to then become autonomous. That may also be possible. But anything that starts questioning, I think, has been inspired or inspirited, right? So not everything likely has the capability to do that. And maybe I'll be proven wrong with the onset of these further technological developments, and maybe we'll find out more. But more so based off my own research and in combination with Nathaniel Gillis's research, this singular phenomena has been using all of these masks, again, not only to just recreate itself in terms of NPCs and background characters around us to fully engulf us more into an illusion, into a simulation, which we can then use to create our own simulations, use our own AIs to stop our own work and create universal income. Again, that's a tangent. But also to control our perception of reality. So if you are, as an aware being, begin to gather more and more awareness, well, how do you begin to feel when you have 100 NPCs around you that then come in to shun you or chastise you or belittle you for your opinions, for your now gained awareness? You may say, well, look, this reality seems to be an illusion. Oh, you're crazy. Okay, that's fine. One person says that. Then 9 other people join. 10 people are saying that. Then 100 people are saying that. So if it's not the belief it wants you to adopt, it likely will use programmable beings around you to try and reprogram you. Does that make sense? Whereas, okay, well, no, Jesus is Lord. One person may say you're crazy, but that program is also benefiting on the other side. So although it may send some people to create a counter, it's a opposition, but it's a controlled opposition. It will then send some to reaffirm because it's another program, right? So that Jesus program is Lord, whatever, suits very well to Christianity, and it also derives worship from that, and says, oh, you know what, that's fine. Send this guiding light or angel to say, oh, you are incredibly right. Jesus is Lord. Come to us in our Christian community and let's worship together. And then that category gets stronger, right? And then, these guys go away, right? Because again, they're controlled opposition to begin with. So in that way, it acts as a moderation of belief. And that's exactly what Nathaniel Gillis was speaking, right? Because in the many cases he gives, right, some random being shows up, and it shows up as a being that was programmed to a former self, right? So let's say when you're a little kid that liked cartoons, and it shows up as a cartoon. Well, this older person now knows that those cartoons weren't real, and then now begins to question the validity of this being as a cartoon, and then that being gets distressed because it's not reacting to the image. So then it begins to falter in its own essence and validity. So then it has to reassess. It has to essentially pull back, just like the ego. When it's broken down, it pulls back, it regroups, and it then comes back in a different way, right? So it does the same thing. It'll retreat, put on a different mask, and come back and say, oh, do you like me now? I say, oh yeah, I accept your validity now. You are true, you are real. And the moment you've said that is the moment it's got you, because, oh, yeah, you're not real in terms of Christianity, but oh, these guys are real, these angels are real, these beings are real, these ETs are real. Oh, perfect. And we're back, right? So now you've accepted the validity of this reality overall by accepting the beings within it, right? It's like a pyramid of belief, right? If you can just accept a little bit rather than an inverted pyramid. If you can accept this tiny bit, then you'll accept this much and this much and this much, because it's all stacked on top of each other. So you don't have to accept the whole pyramid, you just have to accept a little part of it, a little fractal of it, because by saying that's true, then you inadvertently say the whole thing is true. You can't deny this tree and then accept the branch, because then you're accepting the whole tree, because the branch is a fractal of the tree, right? So same with this whole reality, you have to essentially deny the whole reality. Nothing is real. Nothing, including you, are not real in terms of your makeup, physically, etherically, astrally. And all that's really left is the part that is real. Anything that can still hold ground, can still hold structure, or whatever you want to call it, in spite of all the testing and questioning, that is what's real, right? No matter what angle you take at it, that is what's true. So yeah, and then in terms of the Westworld Anunnaki phenomenon, that's what this being likely has been using, right? So same with all the religions worldwide. You don't have to worship me as Yahweh. You can worship me as Krishna. You can worship me as Buddha. You can worship me as Muhammad. It doesn't really matter, because this is my hand and you're just looking at the fingers, right? So you can worship this one, this one, this one. That doesn't matter. It's still part of my hand. Okay, well, hope all of that made sense. I'm gonna end this video here. So let me know what you guys thought in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.